Good evening, everyone. Good evening to those that are viewing via the live stream as well. So welcome to our 14th annual Professional Services Symposium. This symposium provides our decision makers with an opportunity to meet with qualified minority and women-owned professional services firms that otherwise would not be exposed, which otherwise we would not be exposed to them. Earlier today, 50 of my colleagues from the University of Chicago and UChicago Medicine, along with members of the Obama Foundation, engaged in 45-minute closed-door meetings with 27 minority and women-owned firms within the communications, legal, money management, human resources, financial services, and information technology industries. Now, these were actual meetings. They were not pitches. Everyone is sitting around a table, having dialogue and conversation and building relationships. And this format has actually proven to be quite successful. So we've gone from spending $7 million with MBEs after our first symposium in 2010 to now $200 million with more than 100 minority and women-owned professional services firms. And I have to thank all of my colleagues from the university who are committed to engaging minority and women-owned businesses and who participate in this symposium every year. And I really thank you for your participation. So business diversity and inclusion is ingrained in our culture here at the University of Chicago. The commitment starts at the top of our organization with our trustees, like John Rogers, and our University of Chicago president, Paul Alivisatos. And now, I would actually like to introduce you to our 14th president, Paul Alivisatos.
Thank you, Nadia. Good evening. It's truly an honor for the University of Chicago to welcome you here and to be in partnership with you. So I'm so happy to be back. The last time, a year ago, I had just begun in my role as president, so this is, it feels more familiar, and really it's one of the most wonderful events of the year. I can tell you, having been through a cycle now, that this is a real highlight, and it's a very special event for the university. And we really value the fact that you're here and that we're in partnership with you. In fact, it's something that I've come to learn more about over the last year, the impact that the Office of Business Diversity has here at the university, and just what a great office it truly is. So I'll say a little bit more about that. This event represents a project on our part to try to remove barriers, facilitate relationships, and particularly to match amazing and exceptional firms and leaders like you with the right university and medical center decision makers. The symposium is an example of what we can achieve when we work in partnership with you and with minority and women-owned businesses. It's a real foundation for our engagement in general. A year into my presidency, I can say that one of the major themes of my presidency is what I call the engaged University of Chicago. We have always been a university that's been committed to shaping and defining new fields of knowledge and to transformative education. But also, we are a university that seeks to engage in partnership with society in order to help work on some of the most important opportunities and challenges. And so this fits into that in such a beautiful way, our ability to work closely with great business leaders like you. In fact, I think this is an opportunity that we will continue to grow. I see the professional services industry as one where there's enormous possibilities for further growth. Perhaps the present moment in the economy is a little bit rough, but we're in this for the long term, all of us together, and even in this moment, there's of course opportunities everywhere that we would like to build together with you. So I see it as really something that's very, very integral to us. And I'd like to note the fact, I think, Nadia, you mentioned something like this, that at this point we've now paid close to $200 million to more than 100 minority and women-owned firms. So that's, I think, a big, a big accomplishment. I'd also like to just take this moment to really acknowledge the phenomenal leadership, the inspiring, and I think you'll know, tireless leadership of Nadia Quarles, who's doing an absolutely amazing job. And Nadia, you already mentioned the incredible leadership that we are beneficiaries of by University trustee John Rogers, who it just helps all of us to come together and achieve important things. So John, thank you. And please know that we will continue to deeply prioritize our relationships with women and minority-owned firms. It's going to be something that we continue to do. We're seeking all the different ways in which we can help to grow it, and I think there are great opportunities for us to do it together. So I'd just like to welcome you and thank you, and to signal how much it means to us that we're able to be partners with you. And I hope you have a great program.
Thank you, President Oliver Santos. And now it is my honor to present our John W. Rogers Jr. Business Diversity Impact Award. This award was established in 2018 and is named after our university trustee, who we also have dubbed the Godfather of Business Diversity, John Rogers. Each year, the award is presented to a university decision maker in recognition of their commitment to minority and women-owned professional services firms and advancing business diversity throughout their departments at the university. This year, our John W. Rogers Jr. Business Diversity Impact Award is going to Mark Felberg, our Assistant Vice President. Look at that. I'm glad you all agree. Our Assistant Vice President for Procurement and Payment Services. I've had the pleasure of working closely with Mark over my past 16 years here. And, I'll admit that we have had some very spirited conversations, sometimes a little loud, sometimes not. But we are true partners in our commitment to increasing the university's contract opportunities with minority-owned businesses. And so, under Mark's leadership, I'll just talk about one thing that he's done. He's done a lot. Under Mark's leadership, we entered into our first preferred supplier agreement for temporary staffing services with Agile One. And Agile One is the largest minority and women-owned staffing firm in the country. Not only did we contract with Janice Bryant Harroyd's company, but Mark also made a point of ensuring that many of the Tier 2 firms under her contract are also minority and women-owned. So this is just one example of, of the work that Mark has done. And so please join me in congratulating Mark Fehlberg on his award. There you go, Mark. Thank you. You make some remarks.
Okay, so before I get started, I do have to say this is not my normal place to be. So Nadia has violated a silent rule that we had. Nadia is the one on the stage. I like to be seated somewhere up there, and for the last 12 and a half years, we've agreed that that will be the way it works. This year, she's violated that rule, so I'm looking for ways that I can get her back. So if anyone has good ideas, please talk to me after the meeting. So I'm not sure how long I'm supposed to speak, and my team tells me I talk too long most of the time. But my name is Mark Fehlberg. I lead procurement and payment services here at the university. I am part of the university's finance and administration group. And a couple things that I have to say. Obviously, I'm up here accepting the award, but many of the team members that I work with day in and day out are here in the crowd. Many of you know them. You work with them. You sign contracts with them. You have lunch with them. You were at the meetings today with them. They're going to tell you Mark does nothing, and I agree with them. So this award is not my award. It really is their award. In addition, it was said earlier, and I do have to double down on it, that the university makes this easy. I've been at the university 12 and a half years. Prior to that, I was with some very fine corporations for about 20 years. Nobody do the math, please. And in that time, I really have never worked in an easier environment where the culture from top to bottom, all the way from the board down to every person in this university, lives and breathes diversity and inclusion. It's part of everything that we do, so it makes it easy. And hopefully you experience that as you work with our teams. We're not always going to agree on everything, as Nadia said, but we so often do. And we're not always going to get it right, but we so often do. So I have to say I'm honored, humbled, a little nervous, a lot of nervous. Also, that I was told John Rogers would not be here, so that made me feel a little bit, whew. But he actually is here, and so he's a little bit of a intimidating factor for me, A, because I sat near Nadia and I always heard the conversation sometimes, but B, for someone who's a procurement geek like what I do, he's really a national leader and inspiration for diversity and inclusion on a nationwide basis. And some of what is being done in professional services here and this symposium is being exported to other universities. Peers of mine talk to me about what's done here. Peers of mine actually are replicating this because professional services is not the normal M and WEBE programs that we see in so many traditional spaces. It really is a special thing that Nadia and the team here with John's leadership and inspiration and a little bit of coaching and shoving and poking, it's really something special. So I can't, hopefully you're living it because I can't describe it more than that. So one thing I'd like to leave you with, so I see a lot of friends, I see a lot of poster boards out there, people that I've met and had the pleasure to work with over the years, and people in the room that we've had chances to talk and meet. This symposium is about relationships and it's about network building. You're not going to walk out of here every time with a contract, and Nadia and I talk about that. But what I would say is make a friend, make a acquaintance, make a contact tonight, plant a seed. Because so many of those posters out there didn't start with coming out of that meeting, shaking hands, oh yeah, we're going to go. But they come with a seed, and that seed grows, and that relationship grows. And every year, I always take such pride, every year there's always a number of seeds that germinate and grow from this professional diversity symposium. So with that, make a friend, make an acquaintance, plant a seed, and I look forward to celebrating with you next year and talking about all those new relationships. So thank you so much. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, John.
love it. Thank you, Mark, and congratulations again. And now, I am thrilled to be holding a fireside chat with EC United CEO Wheeler Coleman. And so, before we start, please direct your attention to the screen.
Labor, talent, and so we can provide them wherever their needs are.
We deliver like the big consulting organizations, but most importantly, we're passionate about our relationships that we're developing with each and every client.
Everyone here has worked in other industries. Everybody is really good at what they do. It's like being a team, a room of all-stars. Our job there is to make sure you fix the problem before the customer knows there's a problem.
And we really get close to it. Technology actually develop so that
Executive Consultants United is a holistic IT consultant firm. We work with organizations that have a need to develop strategies or assessment, or in some cases, organizations just need equipment, or they may need specialists, work for labor, talent. And so we can provide them wherever their needs are.
We deliver like the big consulting organizations, but most importantly, we're passionate about our relationships that we're developing with each and every client.
Everyone here has worked in other industries. Everybody is really good at what they do. It's like being a team, a room of all-stars. Our job there is to make sure you fix the problem before the customer knows there's a problem.
and we really get close to our customers. We ask them if we can shadow, in areas where they're asking us to help so that we can identify, where can technology actually help.
To develop and the understanding that our customers are asking for, where not only that they understand and using the technology, but know that we can be with them with every step of the way of growing.
And we're there to become their trusted advisor. So we've got to earn that trust, but also deliver on how we provide solutions that can really address a multitude of industries.
We provide specialists for them, cybersecurity, architects, report writers, as well as help them find other leaders to run their operation. And so we do executive search, retained search, technical search.
We embrace our clients like we embrace our team members. It's very much a family approach. It's really getting to know people at the human level.
There's so much diversity and culture, and that's so important, and it's exciting, and the team is growing, and I'm very happy to be here.
Our objective is to help our end client, and we want them to be successful. We can help organizations go to the next level.
So, Wheeler, ooh, that's loud. I am so excited to have this conversation with you, and I'm also a little nervous because the IT industry has been a little difficult for me to grasp, and one of the things that has been important to me in my role is being able to understand all the different industries, because I feel like in order to have true impact, you really need to have an understanding. You need to be able to talk their conversation. So, I'm a little nervous about the IT world, but I'm going for it.
Go for it.
So let's just start.
Before we get started.
Okay.
And so I'm going to help her relax a little. And I apologize for the folks my back is somewhat turned, so I'm going to try to see if I can face everybody. But before we get started, I want to say thank you, Nadia, for what you're doing, right? And the people that support you to put on a forum like this. This is awesome. We need more institutions and more leaders to do what the University of Chicago is doing, providing exposure and opportunities for minority businesses. And so thank you for what you're doing.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your background and how you even got into the tech industry, the IT industry.
Yeah, and so when I was in high school, I went to a Catholic high school, and I had a casual conversation with a nun. And we weren't talking about the man upstairs, but she gave me a heavenly message. I believe God was talking through her. So about 45 years ago, maybe this month, this nun said, "Wheeler, what are you going to do after high school?" I said, "I'm going to try to get into college, but I don't know what I'm going to study." I said, "One thing I know, however, is that I got to make sure I get a job after high school." And she said, "Well, Wheeler, everybody says computers are the future, so maybe you should study computers." And I said, "Yeah, maybe I should." So since that moment, technology has been my passion. Learning technology, trying to make a difference. And so I went on to college and I studied computer science, got a degree from Northern Illinois University in the field. Got a job as a software developer. 5 years later, I was in a leadership role. 33 years working for 3 large corporations, former chief technology officer for Healthcare Service Corporation, former 2-time CIO for 2 other Blue Cross Blue Shield companies. And so in 2016, I retired from the Blues and started EC United. So that's how I got into the technology field. And it has been my passion ever since.
And so then with EC United, how did COVID work out for you? I mean, I know when we had to make that pivot to doing my symposium via Zoom, right? And that was huge for us. And then
Sure.
So, and that was new, right? All that technology that was coming up, it was.
Well, really, it's not new. As a former chief technology officer and a former CIO, we were pushing organizations to try to go virtual. We were pushing a lot of this technology, and some leaders embraced it. So some institutions embraced it. Some embraced online learning. Some embrace working from home. Others did not. But COVID did more to digitalize organizations than any CIO or CTO or any technology specialist could do. It forced us to find a better way or a different way to leverage the technology that already existed.
Okay, yeah.
Now, some organizations were in a better position to flip the switch and embrace the technology than others. And some organizations got in trouble when they flipped the switch because they didn't properly train their employees to work from home. They didn't have the proper security in place at the endpoints. So, but this was not new technology.
Okay.
This was existing technology that became universally accepted.
Okay. And so professional services industries, we know, are the most difficult for minority businesses to penetrate for many reasons. So they are high margin industries, and there is oftentimes a lack of trust in minority businesses and your capabilities to perform. They are highly relationship driven, and oftentimes Black and brown people don't have those, historical relationships, and that's why the symposium is so important. But then there's another challenge, and so we're going to have a real conversation here. And I really want to talk about this, and that's the challenge of trying to get paid your worth. And so, when I thought about this question, I was like, you're not getting the contracts because you don't have the relationships. And then you're not getting the contracts because your fee is too high. So, have you experienced that? Talk about this a little bit.
So you're going to go deep, and let's go deep.
I really want to have this conversation because I hear it a lot.
So let me say this. It is absolutely true that minority businesses are often left out when it comes to professional service, contracts, and opportunities. I golf with a group of doctors every Saturday morning. And these doctors, medical degrees from Yale, Princeton, Northwestern. And they complain about how they have to justify their knowledge, or how they have to fight for opportunities and contracts, or work with insurance companies to get paid or compensated at the same level of compensation that some of their other peers have to get compensated. And so these are doctors, and it's happening in the legal field, it's happening in the technology field, it's happening in many other industries, money management services as well. And so as a minority company, we always have to prove ourselves. Mm-hmm. I spent 33 years working in corporate. I'd had over 2,000 people reporting into me. I managed a $756 million IT budget. And sometimes I'm selling to individuals that have less experience, less scope of responsibility, and they look at me and say, "Do you really know your stuff?" As if they doubt that I'm capable of helping them. Now, in some cases, there's some fear that I may know a little too much about their operation. But then in other cases, some of those leaders will embrace us.
All right, tell a story about the 130-page report that you did.
Let me say this. We had a client, large media company in the Midwest. We went in and we did an IT assessment for them. And we produced a 120-page report. Gave it to them, boom. Gave an overview, summary. Next day, I had a conversation with that CEO. And that CEO had the report in her hand and flipped through the report and said, "Wheeler, this is some pretty impressive stuff. This is McKinsey-like material without the McKinsey price tag. And I want you to know, my CFO and I, we're jokingly saying, and we have jokingly called this project discount.com. So did they pay a fair price for the work that we did? Absolutely not. And that happens over and over again with minority businesses. They want to discount our work. They want us to change our prices. And so we fight that battle all the time.
So let's talk about pricing, because I think, I learned a lot. One of the things that I've learned about the IT industry. And so let's talk about, the pricing when, a procurement person or there's an RFP that goes out, right, and they say, well, he's too high, right? So oftentimes I hear that a lot, right? The minority businesses come in too high, and so the bids will go to the majority-owned firm. I think within every industry, there are probably, well, I know that there are reasons for that. And can you just explain a little about why maybe your pricing may come in higher?
So there's three aspects of our business,
Yeah.
right? So we've got the professional service arm, and then we also sell technology. So a lot of the equipment that you see here in this room, Wi-Fi, wireless services, voice solution and that kind of stuff. So we sell technology. And then we also specialize, and we place individuals with specialized skills in contingent labor arm. Mm-hmm. But let me specifically talk about the acquisition of technology. Mm-hmm. Because first of all, I want to say most people don't understand the space. Mm-hmm. And it is problematic. And I'm going to tell you why. So let me see if I can explain some things. Procurement organizations, Mark, you guys take a lot of time and effort to put structure in place for your acquisitions. You may do RFPs, you may have blind bids, right? And so you do everything in your power to make sure that it is a fair RFP process. Most institutions do that. Every now and then there's a few that will do favors, right, and give it to their friends or give it to the people that they have relationships with. But in the acquisition space where they are acquiring goods, you have a manufacturer that is playing a role in the acquisition. Mm-hmm. So let me tell you, if an institution says, we're going to do an RFP and we're going to buy 10,000 laptops, and we're going to buy the laptop from a name manufacturer, and as a company that sells those laptops, I've got to go register that deal with the manufacturer. I got to say, manufacturer, Lenovo, Samsung, Dell, HP. Whatever that manufacturer is, I got to go to them and I got to say, I'm going to try to sell the University of Chicago 10,000 laptops. I need to register this deal. And that manufacturer will give me a discount on lists. Mm-hmm. So that manufacturer could sit back and say, well, I'm going to give you...
They give you a good discount.
I'm going to give you a 20% discount, Wheeler. And of course, they're going to sell it to me with a 20% discount. I'm going to put my margin on top of that, and then I'm going to sell it to the university. However, a vendor can come right behind me and register that same deal, and that manufacturer kind of say, well, you're one of my boys. We really like you. We're going to give you a 50% discount. Think about that for a second. I get a 20% discount. Mm-hmm. The next guy that's selling the same 10,000 widgets,
who probably isn't a minority owned,
which is definitely not minority owned,
right? That's the
it's
point.
A 50% discount. I can do a pass through. I can decide we're going to try to buy the business. We're going to do a 1% markup, and I can still be 10, 15% higher than the next guy that got that greater discount. Now, why is that a problem? The manufacturer is actually picking the winner. And so let me give you an example. And I have to tell this story.
Okay.
I was on a call with a global company in the airlines industry, and there were 50 procurement agents on that call. And we pitched a company. We didn't have a fancy video like this, but I pitched a company. This is what we do. And one of the procurement agencies said, Mr. Wheeler, we try to buy from minority companies, but they're always so high. Why are they always so high? And what makes you different? And so I paused for a second because this procurement agent worked for an extremely large company, and I wasn't sure if he was being like my wife and like most lawyers. They already know the answer before you give it, right? I just wasn't certain there. Or maybe he was a little naive and didn't realize what was really going on in this space. So my message to him was, Mr. Procurement Agent, the problem with a lot of minorities being so high when they submit their bid, it has nothing to do with them trying to gouge or the system or try to make $1 million on a single deal. It has nothing to do with that. Our cost has been raised or artificially set by the manufacturers that we're buying those goods from. I was sharing this story or this issue in this manufacturing space with a politician. And the politician just said, Wheeler, I didn't know this was happening. However, it makes sense now. We've been trying to buy toilet paper from a minority vendor, and their cost is always higher. So now we understand that the manufacturer who's setting those discounts and selling those goods to the minority company is playing what I would call three-card Molly. We're going to pretend we're helping you. We're going to pretend we're going to give you a discount. But we're going to give these other guys a greater discount. And guess what? Nobody's really knowing. The university, it's outside of your walls. You don't see that. All you see is the proposals. So,
information is key.
It is key. And let me say something else. Progressive institutions got to realize that, hey, there's something you can do about it. Until there's actual rules or laws that are changed, in my opinion, and I think that needs to happen, but progressive institutions like the University of Chicago could do some things about it. If you know that you're going to buy some goods from a given manufacturer, you can sit back and say, I tell you what, for this particular order, I want price parity. Yep. I want equal pricing for all my vendors that's going to bid on this work. Now let's have some real competition. So for years, we've been living on 2-3% markups. And the other guys that are getting an extra 15-20% discount been living on some fat margins. Now let's have some real competition.
Okay.
That's my recommendation on how to fix some of this.
That was a little education. So I want to talk a little about the greater picture of working with minority businesses and the relationship to that and wealth building in minority communities. Yeah. Because one of the things that, we talked about was some of the work that you do and how, we talked about your employees, the work that you do in the community. And I really wanted to share that with you all and how when we hire minority businesses, how that the trickle-down effect of creating wealth in minority communities.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a whole ecosystem, right, that feeds one another. You hire a company like EC United, well, we hire all kinds of people, based on their skill sets, but we have a special lens for minority employees, right? We know how to recognize talent, and we hire those individuals to come work for us. Mm-hmm. Well, our employees are in the community. Our employees also shop in the communities, and they're the local communities, and they help recycle those dollars. Think about this for a second. I sent my daughter to University of Chicago lab school since 3rd grade, so she graduated 5 years ago from high school here. My dollars were in this institution. This auditorium wasn't even here. Now, granted, my dollars didn't build this auditorium, but my dollars came to this institution.
Right.
And we've got to find a way to say, how do we feed minority businesses so they can further feed
But even talk about the work that you do to create opportunities, for people in the community, like to hire, the work that you do to hire people from the community.
Yeah, and so we hire young engineers with maybe a couple of years or 5 years of experience under the belt. And we pair them with our senior engineers. And so our engineers are not only learning about technology, but they're also learning about business. Mm-hmm. And they're learning how to sell from seasoned veterans. I mean, we're talking about people with 3, 4 decades in the field. And so we're trying to elevate our young talent to educate them not only about technology, but about business and about selling. And I want to come back to this, the importance of technology, and especially in the minority communities. There's over 700,000 unfilled IT jobs in the U.S. alone. 700,000. And then there's another 400,000 that comes available every year due to people leaving the industry. So that's over 1.1 million jobs in the technology field. We should be encouraging, and they're going unfilled. We should be encouraging all our minority kids to help fill that gap, because the average job is over 97,000. It's a life-changing opportunity for these minority kids. Mm-hmm. And so as a minority company, a minority tech company, we try to do all we can to educate, to hire, to support minority kids to get into the technology field and to grow and to get viable jobs.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so, man, I have 2 more things I want to talk about, but our time is running short. Let's talk about getting more kids in the tech industry. And, in the land of Wakanda, and the new and innovative technology that's being created in this Afro-futuristic society, there is a young girl by the name of Suri, who is this phenomenal innovator, right? And you see all the things that she's creating in Wakanda. How do we create more Suris in the world? How do we get our young kids more engaged?
Well, first of all, we've got to invest in our young kids. We've got to introduce them to technology. We've got to provide them with opportunities to grow. There is no reason why we can't change the lifestyle or the life of our young kids. And technology is the way to do it. And so Wakanda Forever says, hey, let's explore. Let's get creative. Let's think out of the box. Let's innovate. We as a society, we got to figure out how can we innovate more and help our young kids. But we also got to figure out how can we further help and invest in our minority businesses. I want to just let you know, having University of Chicago in my portfolio as a company that I do business with helps me go get more business. If University of Chicago spends $1 million with my company, first of all, it's just a drop in the hat. It's a teardrop for the University of Chicago. It's a rounding error for the University of Chicago. It is significant for a company like me. And so our organization was just recognized by the National Minority Supplier Diversity Council as the Fast 50, one of the fastest 50 growing minority companies. Thank you. And so I said this, that, you know, we were the only IT company in the city of Chicago on that list. We were one of 2 companies in the state of Illinois. We need more companies on that list, and institutions like the University of Chicago can help make that happen. You can be the role model for other institutions, especially the one that's up north. You can, and then when we can get,
Okay, Wheeler.
when we can get University of Chicago on our portfolio, we can go to those other institutions. You help legitimize us as a company. And so I want to say again, say this again. I appreciate the work that you guys are doing here. It is helping to move the needle, but more needs to be done.
Absolutely.
And we need to figure out how to make that happen. And I'm a willing partner, by the way, just to let you know that.
Well, Wheeler, thank you so much. I think I survived the IT talk. I so appreciate you. I so appreciate you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Now you can get back to networking and eating and drinking, and let's get some contracts. Let's get some contracts. That's what this is about.